Space was burning. Ambassador Telris watched through the command deck windows as another coalition warship broke apart under Vrexel attacks. Pieces of metal and bodies drifted into the black void. He had seen this sight too many times in the past 3 months. The Vrexel swarm had appeared without warning. Nobody knew where they came from. They looked like massive insects crossed with machines, their bodies both living and mechanical at the same time. They consumed everything: planets, ships, space stations. Nothing could stop them. Telris belonged to the Quilvan species. His people were tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. The Quilvans were famous throughout the galaxy for their peaceful nature and wise counsel. They had helped create the Galactic Coalition 5,000 years ago, bringing together 17 different species in harmony and friendship. Now that harmony was ending. The Vrexel didn't want to talk. They didn't want peace. They just wanted to eat and grow and spread across the galaxy like a disease. How many ships remain? Telris asked the bridge crew. A young officer checked her display. Her hands were shaking. 47 warships, Ambassador. We started with 300. The entire bridge fell quiet. Everyone understood what those numbers meant. The coalition had lost. In 3 short months, the Vrexel had destroyed most of their military power. Soon there would be nothing left to defend their homes. Sir, the Drellian Home Fleet just sent a final message. Another officer reported. They're being overrun. They wanted to say goodbye. Telris felt something break inside his chest. The Drellians were beautiful people who loved music and art. Their civilization was older than most stars. Now they were gone, erased from existence by creatures that didn't even know what music was. We need to evacuate the civilians, Telris said softly. Send all the transport ships to the outer rim. Maybe some of our people can survive if they run far enough and hide well enough. As the crew started organizing the evacuation, Telris walked slowly to the communication station. He had one final idea. It was desperate and probably useless, but he had to try. His 4 hands moved across the controls, activating the most powerful transmitter on the ship. This is Ambassador Telris of the Galactic Coalition. He spoke into the microphone. We are dying. A hostile force has destroyed our defenses and conquered our worlds. We have tried everything we know. We have called every ally we have. There is nobody left to help us. This is a distress call to anyone listening in the galaxy. We are begging for help. Please, if someone can hear this, we need you. He set the message to repeat on every possible frequency. The signal spread out from the Harmony's light, traveling faster than light itself, reaching across thousands of light years in moments. It passed through empty space and dead systems. It went beyond all the known territory of the Coalition, into the wild regions where nobody had explored. Finally, the message reached a small yellow star at the very edge of the galaxy's mapped zone. In Coalition databases, this star system had a special marking. Quarantine zone, extreme danger. All ships must avoid. On the 3rd planet of that system, a world called Earth, a young woman named Hannah sat in a monitoring station drinking coffee. She worked the night shift watching for signals from space. Usually nothing happened. Tonight was different. Every screen in her station suddenly turned red. Alarms screamed. The signal strength meter showed numbers Hannah had never seen before. Something was broadcasting from deep space, and it was powerful enough to reach Earth from thousands of light years away. Hannah's coffee cup fell from her hand. She knew what this meant: aliens, real aliens, not just the signals Earth had been detecting for 70 years, but actual aliens trying to communicate. She activated the translation computer and waited while it worked. Earth had been studying alien languages from intercepted signals for decades, but nobody had ever tried to talk to Earth directly. The computer analyzed the message, breaking down the language patterns, searching its database. The translation appeared on screen. Hannah read it once, then again, then a 3rd time. Her heart was pounding. She grabbed her phone and called Captain Jinho. Her supervisor was probably asleep, but this couldn't wait. Captain Jinho, this is Hannah at Station 7. You need to come here immediately. We just received an alien distress call. They're under attack and asking for help. 30 minutes later, Captain Jinho arrived. He was a serious man with gray hair who had spent 20 years in the United Earth Defense. He had always believed this day would come, but he still felt shocked when he heard the message. Play it again, he ordered. Hannah played the message. They both listened to Ambassador Telris begging for help, describing how his civilization was being destroyed. Captain Jinho made a decision. Contact the United Earth Defense Council, emergency priority. Tell them we need an immediate meeting. All representatives. Within 8 hours, the council assembled. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered in a secure underground facility in Geneva. They watched the alien message on a giant screen. Some looked excited. Many looked scared. Commander Taejin stood at the front of the room. He led Earth's First Contact Division, the group responsible for planning how to meet aliens. He was a strong man with intense eyes who never avoided difficult choices. Everyone here knows the situation, Taejin began. 70 years ago, we developed faster-than-light travel. We detected alien signals and learned we're not alone in the universe. But we also discovered something else. The aliens know about us and they're afraid of us. He activated a holographic display showing Earth's file in the Coalition database. The file was marked with warnings and danger symbols. The Galactic Coalition classified Earth as a Class 12 death world. That's their highest danger rating. They quarantined our entire solar system. No alien ship has ever come near us because they consider us too dangerous. Why? Asked someone from the audience. Because Earth is a nightmare by their standards, Taejin explained. Our gravity is crushing. Our atmosphere is toxic to most species. Our weather is violent. Our planet is full of diseases and predators. And we humans evolved to survive all of it. To them, we're terrifying. The room buzzed with conversation. Everyone had read these reports before, but hearing it stated so clearly was still shocking. So what do we do? Asked the Secretary General. They've avoided us for 70 years. Now they're desperate enough to call us. What's our response? Taejin looked around the room. I propose we answer their call. We send military aid. 4 ships. The carriers Incheon and Busan, the frigates Dokdo and Jeju. We show the galaxy that Earth might be dangerous, but we're also capable of helping those in need. The debate lasted hours. Some argued Earth should stay hidden and safe. Others insisted this was humanity's chance to join the galactic community. They argued about risks and benefits, about safety and morality, about fear and hope. Finally, they voted. The result was 53 in favor, 17 against. Earth would answer the call. In orbit, the 4 warships prepared for departure. Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of the Incheon, looking down at Earth through the windows. She was 38 years old and had commanded this ship through many training exercises, but never a real battle. Captain, all systems are ready, her officer reported. We can jump whenever you give the order. Yuna took a deep breath. Send a message to the alien ship. Tell them help is coming. Tell them Earth has heard their call and we're on our way. She turned to her crew. Activate the faster-than-light drive. Let's go save some aliens. The 4 ships vanished in flashes of light, jumping across the galaxy toward a war zone. On the Harmony's light, Ambassador Telris received Earth's message. He stared at the screen, unable to believe what he was reading. The death world was coming. The species that scared the entire coalition was coming to help them. Telris didn't know whether to feel grateful or terrified. Maybe both feelings were correct. The journey through faster-than-light space took 3 days. Captain Yuna spent that time studying everything Earth knew about the Vrexel swarm. The information came from old Coalition probe data that had been intercepted years ago. What she learned made her worried. The Vrexel were biological ships. They were alive. Their hulls could heal themselves within minutes. They could adapt to any weapon used against them. The Coalition had tried energy weapons, plasma beams, lasers, and electromagnetic pulses. Everything worked once, then stopped working as the Vrexel evolved resistance. But Earth's weapons were different. Humans still used bullets and missiles. Simple kinetic energy, just heavy metal moving very fast. The Vrexel had probably never encountered weapons like that before. Captain, we're approaching the target area, announced the navigation officer. Yuna stood up from her command chair. All crew prepare for combat. Launch all fighters. Load all weapons. This is not a drill. The Incheon dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and immediately every alarm on the ship started screaming. The space station called Kepler Sanctuary was directly ahead, surrounded by Vrexel bioships. The creatures looked horrible, like giant insects made of metal and flesh, covered in spines and oozing green fluid. Yuna counted the defenders. Only 15 Coalition ships remained, and most looked badly damaged. Their elegant energy shields flickered and died as Vrexel claws tore through them like paper. Open communications, Yuna ordered. All frequencies. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Yuna of the Earth Defense Ship Incheon. We received your distress call. We're here to help. All Coalition vessels, please fall back and let us engage the enemy. There was silence for several seconds. Then a translator voice came through, speaking in musical tones. Earth Ship Incheon, this is the Harmony's Light. You should not be here. This combat zone is rated Class 12 danger level. Please retreat to safety immediately. Yuna smiled without humor. Harmony's Light, we appreciate your concern. But we traveled 3 days to get here. We're not leaving now. All Earth ships begin attack formation. Let's show them what we can do. The 4 Earth vessels moved forward into the battle. The Coalition observers watched with confusion. The human ships looked wrong. They had no energy shields at all, just thick armor plating. They were painted dark colors instead of bright metallic finishes. They looked like warships from a more primitive age. Pilot Do-Yun sat in his fighter cockpit waiting for the launch signal. He was 29 years old and had logged over 3,000 flight hours. He had trained for combat his entire adult life, but this was his first real battle against aliens. All fighters, you are cleared for launch, came the command from the Incheon. Do-Hyun's fighter shot out of the launch bay. Behind him, 50 more fighters followed. They formed into attack wings and accelerated toward the Vrexil bioships. On the Coalition vessels, sensor operators stared at their screens in disbelief. The human fighters were moving at incredible speeds and pulling maneuvers that generated enormous gravitational forces. 8 times Earth's gravity. 9 times. 10 times. Those forces would kill any Coalition pilot instantly, crushing their bodies into paste. But the humans seemed completely fine. Do-Hyun selected his target, one of the smaller Vrexil bioships. He armed his rotary cannons and dove in for an attack run. Fox 1 engaging, he reported calmly. His cannons opened fire. 6,000 rounds per minute poured out of his weapons. The bullets were made from depleted uranium, one of the densest materials Earth could manufacture. They punched through the Vrexil's biological armor with ease, tearing massive holes in the creature's body. The bioship tried to regenerate, growing new tissue to seal the wounds. But Do-Hyun was already circling for a second pass. This time he fired missiles, 4 simple explosive rockets that slammed into the Vrexil and detonated. The bioship broke apart, spilling green ichor into space. Target destroyed, Do-Hyun reported. Moving to next target. All across the battlefield, human fighters were destroying Vrexil bioships. The swarm tried to adapt their armor, making it thicker and harder. It didn't help. Kinetic weapons didn't care about biological adaptation. A piece of metal moving at 3,000 meters per second would penetrate any organic material. On the Harmony's Light, Ambassador Telris stood frozen, watching the battle unfold on his view screens. Beside him stood a young human woman named Minji. She had come aboard as a communications liaison between Earth and the Coalition. Ambassador, Captain Yuna is requesting permission to send ground forces aboard Kepler Sanctuary, Minji said. Our sensors show the Vrexil have breached the station's interior. We can clear them out. Telris turned to look at her. There are hundreds of Vrexil warriors inside that station. They're in the corridors, the ventilation systems everywhere. The atmosphere is contaminated with toxins. It's certain death. Minji's expression didn't change. Sir, our Marines are trained for this kind of combat. They can handle it. Before Telris could argue, the human frigate Docto positioned itself next to Kepler Sanctuary. Metal tubes extended from the ship to the station's airlocks. Armored human soldiers began pouring through. Lieutenant Siak was the first Marine through the airlock. He was a large man, over 6 feet tall, wearing heavy powered armor and carrying a massive rifle. 20 Marines followed him in tight formation. The interior of Kepler Sanctuary looked like something from a nightmare. Vrexil biomatter covered everything, pulsing and growing like a fungus. The walls dripped with acid. The air was thick with poisonous spores that would kill most species within seconds. Environmental filters active, Siak said over the radio. Air quality is hazardous but manageable. Squad, advance carefully. Stay together. They moved down the corridor in perfect coordination. Suddenly, Vrexil warriors dropped from the ceiling. The creatures were smaller than the bioships but still dangerous. They had sharp claws, acid spray, and moved with frightening speed. Siak's squad opened fire immediately. The sound of gunfire echoed through the metal corridors. Bullets tore through Vrexil flesh. The creatures tried to charge the Marines but couldn't get close. The humans maintained perfect firing discipline, covering each other's movements. One Vrexil managed to get past the gunfire and slashed at Siak with razor claws. The blow cut deep into his shoulder, penetrating his armor. Blood sprayed out. "Lieutenant, you're hit," one of his Marines shouted. Siak grabbed the Vrexil with his free hand, slammed it against the wall, and shot it in the head at point-blank range. "I'm functional. Keep moving forward." On the Harmony's light, the Coalition medical officer was monitoring human vital signs. He made a distress sound. "Ambassador, this is medically impossible. Lieutenant Siak has a major arterial injury. He should be unconscious from blood loss, but his suit telemetry shows him still fighting at full capacity." Telris looked at the bio data and felt cold fear wash over him. Human physiology was extraordinary. They had redundant systems for everything. Multiple organs doing the same job. Bones far denser than any Coalition species. Muscles packed with endurance fibers. They could survive injuries that would instantly kill anyone else. "What kind of creatures are these?" Telris whispered. Deep inside Kepler Sanctuary, Lieutenant Nari's squad encountered a serious problem. A structural collapse had separated them from the main force. The section they were in had lost atmosphere completely. Space vacuum. The temperature was negative 200 degrees. "Command, this is Nari. We're trapped in Section 7, no atmosphere. We have 25 minutes of oxygen remaining." "Nari, hold position. We'll send a rescue team," came the response. "Negative, Command. We're proceeding to the secondary objective. There's a Vrexil breeding chamber nearby. We can destroy it." The 5 Marines with Nari moved through the freezing vacuum. Their armor protected them from the cold and the lack of air. They found the Vrexil nest, a massive chamber filled with eggs and growing biomatter. They planted explosive charges and retreated quickly. The explosion vented the entire section into space, destroying thousands of Vrexil eggs and several adult warriors. 5 hours after the battle began, Kepler Sanctuary was clear. The Vrexil forces withdrew completely, retreating from the station for the first time in the war. Human Marines regrouped at the main airlock, tired but successful. Siak finally allowed the medics to treat his shoulder, though he walked to the medical bay on his own power. The Coalition doctors who examined him looked horrified by his injuries and amazed that he was still alive. On the Inchin, Captain Yuna reviewed the tactical reports. The battle had been a complete success. 0 Earthships lost, minimal casualties, and the Vrexil were actually running away. "Captain, Ambassador Telris is requesting a meeting," Minji reported. "He wants to speak with our leadership in person." Yuna nodded. "Tell him we accept. It's time we had a proper conversation." A shuttle launched from the Inchin, carrying Commander Taijin toward the Harmony's light. He looked through the window at the damaged station and the floating Vrexil corpses. This wasn't how anyone had imagined first contact would happen. But then again, humans had never done anything the normal way. The galaxy was about to learn that asking Deathworlders for help came with surprises. The Coalition Council chamber was designed to make visitors feel peaceful. The walls were made from crystal that reflected soft-colored light. The ceiling showed holographic images of beautiful planets and stars. Music played quietly in the background. Everything about the room said harmony and cooperation. Right now, none of that mattered. The council members were afraid. Commander Taijin walked into the chamber with Captain Yuna beside him. Every alien in the room turned to watch them enter. The council had seen recordings of the battle at Kepler Sanctuary. They had watched humans do impossible things. Now 2 of these frightening creatures stood before them in simple gray uniforms. The aliens could sense things humans couldn't. They detected electromagnetic fields, chemical signals, temperature changes. When they focused their senses on Taijin and Yuna, their instincts screamed one word: predator. Ambassador Telris stood at the center of the chamber. He had 4 arms and pale blue skin. He was trembling slightly, though he tried to hide it. "Commander Taijin, Captain Yuna, welcome to the Coalition Council," Telris said. His voice stayed steady despite his fear. "You saved Kepler Sanctuary when we thought all hope was lost. You saved countless lives. We owe you everything." Taijin bowed his head respectfully. "We're honored to help, Ambassador. Your distress signal reached Earth, and we couldn't ignore people in need." A council member stood up. She looked like a being made of crystal with light glowing inside her body. Her voice sounded like chimes. "But why?" she asked. "Earth has been quarantined for 70 years. We classified your world as too dangerous for contact. We avoided you. We feared you. Yet when we called for help, you came immediately. This makes no sense to us," Captain Yuna answered. It makes perfect sense. You needed help. We could provide help. What other reason do we need? The simplicity of her answer left the council confused. They had expected complicated political negotiations. They had expected demands for payment or territory. Instead, the humans seemed genuinely puzzled that anyone would question helping others. Science Officer Jinwoo appeared on a holographic screen. He was a young man only 30 years old, but he was Earth's expert on alien biology. Ambassador Telris, we would like to understand Earth's classification in your databases, Jinwoo said politely. You labeled our planet as Class 12 Deathworld. Could you explain what that means? Telris gestured, and a three-dimensional image of Earth appeared floating in the center of the room. The planet looked beautiful with blue oceans and green continents and white clouds, but as data began appearing around the image, the beauty became frightening. Earth is the most hostile habitable world we have ever discovered, Telris explained carefully. Your planet's gravity is twice what most coalition species can tolerate. Spending even a few hours on Earth would crush our bones. Your atmospheric oxygen is at 21%. That level is poisonous to 8 of our member species. They would die within hours breathing your air. Jinwoo was taking notes, fascinated by this outside perspective on his home world. Telris continued. Earth's temperature swings are extreme. Some regions vary by more than 100 degrees between seasons. Your oceans contain salt at concentrations that would dehydrate most known life forms. Your weather includes hurricanes with winds strong enough to destroy buildings, tornadoes that tear apart everything in their path, and tsunamis that wash away entire cities. Another council member added information. Your planet experiences earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and lightning storms. Your ecosystems contain predators that hunt in coordinated packs. Your microbial life includes bacteria and viruses capable of killing a living being in hours. Even your plants include species with deadly poisons. From our perspective, Telris said quietly, Earth seems designed to kill anything living on it. Yet somehow you not only survived, you became the dominant species. Taejin listened to all this carefully. You're right that Earth is harsh. Humans evolved in difficult conditions. We had to become strong to survive. We developed endurance because we needed to hunt prey for days without stopping. We became tough because our world gave us no choice. Everything you see as weapons, we see as tools for staying alive. Strategic Officer Hyun appeared on another holographic screen. She was a serious woman in her 40s. But Earth also taught us something else, Hyun said. It taught us cooperation. One human alone on our planet would die quickly. We survived by working together, building communities, sharing resources. We learned to care for our sick and injured because abandoning them meant fewer people to help when we needed it. Earth made us strong, yes, but it also made us compassionate. Medical Officer Yoonji joined the conversation via hologram. She was a cheerful woman wearing a white medical uniform. If you'll allow me, I can explain human biology, Yoonji said. I think it will help you understand us better. Please, Telris replied. Yoonji displayed a holographic human body that rotated slowly. Humans have redundant systems for almost everything critical. We have 2 lungs when we could function with 1. We have 2 kidneys when 1 is sufficient. Our liver can regenerate itself from just 25% of its original mass. If we lose blood, our body produces more. If we break a bone, it grows back stronger. She highlighted different body systems. Our immune system fights millions of different diseases constantly. Bacteria and viruses that evolved alongside us on Earth. Our blood clots quickly to stop bleeding. We can survive for weeks without eating and several days without drinking water. The skeletal system lit up. Human bones are extremely dense, reinforced with calcium and other minerals. They can absorb impacts that would shatter the skeletons of most coalition species. Our muscles contain different types of fibers. Some for endurance, allowing us to run for hours. Others for power, letting us lift heavy weights or sprint at high speeds. A council member interrupted, his voice shaking. You're describing a biological weapon, a creature designed for war. Yoonji's smile faded. No, we're describing survivors. Every adaptation you see came from millions of years of evolution on a dangerous planet. We didn't choose to be this way. Our world made us this way, but we do choose how to use our abilities. Taejin stepped forward. The coalition quarantined Earth because you were afraid. We understand. Looking at this data, we can see why our species would frighten you, but you're only seeing half the picture. Yes, we're physically powerful, But we're also artists, musicians, scientists, teachers, parents. We build schools and hospitals. We write poetry. We study the stars because we find them beautiful, Captain Yuna added. We have the ability to hurt people. That's true. But every species has some form of power. You could refuse to trade with us. You could spread false information about us. You could build weapons. Power comes in many forms. What matters is choosing not to abuse it. Engineer Junho appeared on a hologram. He wore dirty work clothes and had grease on his hands. I've been working with coalition engineers repairing Kepler's sanctuary, Junho said. Your technology is incredible. Your energy shields are centuries beyond anything Earth has created. Your faster-than-light engines are more efficient than ours. Your medical scanners can detect diseases we can't even imagine. You have so much knowledge that we desperately want to learn. He smiled warmly. Our kinetic weapons worked well against the Vrexil because they're different from what you use. They're not better, just different. Maybe that's important. We can help each other. You have things we need. We have things you need. Together, we're stronger than either of us alone. A young scientist named Sora spoke up nervously from another hologram. I've been talking with Quilvan researchers about planetary formation. We've been sharing data about how solar systems develop. Despite coming from completely different species, we both love learning about the universe. They've taught me so much in just a few days, and I hope I've taught them something too. One of the Quilvan researchers responded, her musical voice warm and kind. Young Sora has one of the most brilliant scientific minds I've ever encountered. She's kind and curious and passionate about knowledge. If this is what humans are truly like, then we have been afraid of the wrong things. The council chamber fell silent. The members looked at each other, communicating through their various methods. Pheromone signals, electromagnetic pulses, subtle body language. Finally, Telris spoke. Commander Tejan, I must ask you a direct question. Your species has the physical capability to conquer the galaxy if you chose to. You could take whatever you want by force. Why haven't you? Why choose to help strangers instead? Tejan thought carefully before answering. Because we know what conquest leads to. Earth's history includes many wars. Empires rose and fell. People hurt each other in terrible ways. We learned slowly and painfully that cooperation is better than conflict. We learned that strength without wisdom leads to destruction. We learned that the best way to use power is protecting people who need protection. We're not perfect, Yuna added. We make mistakes. We argue and disagree among ourselves. But we've chosen to be better than our worst instincts. That's what civilization means. Choosing cooperation instead of conflict. Choosing to help instead of harm. A council member stood. The coalition must make a decision. The Vrexil swarm remains a threat to all of us. 3 weeks passed after the meeting at the Coalition Council. Now a massive combined fleet gathered at the edge of Vrexil territory. Admiral Minho stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship Sol, studying holographic maps of the Taraxian system. Next to him, displayed on a communication screen, was Coalition Admiral Felstor. The alien looked like a floating jellyfish with glowing tentacles. The Taraxian system was once beautiful, Felstor explained sadly. 12 billion Taraxians lived there across 3 planets. They were artists and philosophers. They created music that could make you cry with joy. Now their worlds are breeding grounds for the Vrexil. The swarm has turned everything into biomass. Minho examined the tactical data. 3 planets, all covered in Vrexil organic structures. Intelligence reports suggested millions of Vrexil warriors and dozens of bioships. Normal military strategy would require months to capture the system. We'll take it in 1 week, Minho said confidently. Felstor's tentacles flickered with surprise. Admiral Minho, I don't think you understand the scale of the defenses. The Vrexil have fortified every planet. They have numerical superiority. A conventional assault would require... We're not using conventional assault, Minho interrupted gently. Admiral Felstor, you've been fighting defensively since this war started. You've been reacting to Vrexil movements. We're going to change that. We're going to attack fast, hit hard, and keep pressing until they break. He activated a battle plan hologram. Operation Ironside. Coalition forces establish outer perimeter and provide long-range fire support. Earth forces conduct the main assault. We strike all 3 planets at the same time with overwhelming force. We don't give them time to adapt or coordinate. We just keep hitting them until the system is ours. Felstor was quiet for a long moment. Your species truly has no concept of fear, does it? Minho smiled. Oh, we feel fear. We just don't let it stop us. Let's begin. The attack started exactly at midnight Coalition Standard Time. 200 Earth warships jumped into the Taraxian system, supported by 300 Coalition vessels. The Vrexil reacted immediately, sending swarms of bioships toward the intruders. Marine Commander Taiho stood in the dropship hangar of the assault carrier Guangzhou. Around him, 5,000 Marines prepared their equipment. Taiho was 42 years old with scars covering his arms from previous battles on Earth. He had fought in deserts, jungles, and frozen wastelands. This would be his first battle on an alien world. Listen carefully. Taiho addressed his troops over the communication system. The planet below us used to be home to billions of peaceful people. The Vrexil destroyed everything they built and turned it into a nightmare. We're taking it back. We're going to hit them fast and hard. We're going to show these creatures what happens when they attack civilized people. Make Earth proud! The Marines shouted their battle cry. The dropships launched. Coalition observers watched in shock as human dropships plunged toward the planet. The vessels didn't use gentle descents with protective energy shields. They dropped through the atmosphere like falling meteors, protected only by heat-resistant armor. They hit the ground at speeds that should have turned everyone inside into liquid, but the Marines walked out ready to fight. Taiho's boots touched alien soil. The landscape around him looked like something from a horror story. Everything was covered in Vrexil biomatter, a thick pulsing substance that grew over buildings, streets, and trees. The air was full of toxic spores. The temperature was over 60 degrees. It was a vision of hell. Establish perimeter. Begin clearing operations. I want this landing zone secured in 20 minutes, Taiho ordered calmly. The Marines spread out in perfect formation. Squads moved in different directions, their weapons firing constantly. Flamethrowers burned the biomatter. Explosives destroyed Vrexil nests. When Vrexil warriors attacked, the humans were ready and waiting. In space above the planet, pilot Diane was engaged in the fight of her life. She led a squadron of 20 fighters against a Vrexil hive ship, one of the enormous biovessels that served as command centers for the swarm. The hive ship was protected by a field of debris, destroyed Coalition ships floating in space. Flight control, this is Dayon. I see the target. The debris field is thick, but I can navigate it. Permission to engage? Dayon, negative. The debris field is too dangerous. Find another approach, negative control. I'm going in. Dayon pushed her fighter to maximum acceleration and dove into the debris field. Chunks of metal and frozen bodies rushed past her canopy. She twisted her fighter left and right, avoiding obstacles by centimeters. The gravitational forces were crushing, 9 times Earth's gravity. Her vision started to darken at the edges, but she kept flying. Her squadron followed her, trusting her leadership completely. They wove through the debris like a dance, their fighters screaming warnings that they ignored. Coalition pilots monitoring the sensor data felt physically ill, watching the gravitational readings. Dayon burst through the far side of the debris field and locked her weapons on the hive ship. All fighters launch missiles on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark. 20 fighters released their entire missile payload. Hundreds of simple explosive rockets streaked toward the hive ship. The Vrexil tried to intercept them, but there were too many. The missiles hit within seconds of each other, punching massive holes through the biological armor. The hive ship tried to regenerate but couldn't heal fast enough. It broke apart in a spray of green fluids and dead Vrexil. Hive ship destroyed, Dayon reported as calmly as if she had just completed a training exercise. Moving to engage next target. The Coalition flight controller was speechless. He marked the cockpit recording as classified immediately. If other species saw what humans considered normal combat flying, it would cause panic across the galaxy. On the surface of Taraxian Prime, Corporal Arium's squad encountered a serious problem. They were supposed to capture a communications facility in the ruined capital city. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by hundreds of Vrexil warriors. Pull back to that building, Arium ordered. Her squad of 12 Marines retreated into a partially collapsed structure. They sealed the entrances and prepared to defend. We're cut off from the main force, one Marine reported. Air support is engaged with enemy fighters. No rescue available. Arium checked their supplies. Ammunition for maybe 8 hours of continuous fighting. Food rations for 4 days. Water for 6 days. The building was structurally unstable and might collapse. Outside, Vrexil were already trying to break through the walls. Then we hold until help arrives, Arium said firmly. Set up defensive positions. Make every shot count. We're not dying here. What happened next would become legendary throughout the galaxy. Arium's squad held that building for 14 days. They fought during the day and repaired defenses at night. When ammunition ran low, they made explosives from supplies found in the building. When food ran out, they went hungry but kept fighting. When water supplies failed, they survived on minimal hydration. The Vrexil attacked constantly. They sent waves of warriors. They released chemical weapons. They tried to collapse the building with coordinated strikes. Nothing worked. The 12 humans adapted to every attack, learned the Vrexil patterns, and found ways to counter them. At night, the Marines conducted raids. They snuck out of the building, planted explosives in Vrexil nests, and disappeared before the enemy could react. They sabotaged supply lines. They destroyed staging areas. They became ghosts that the swarm couldn't catch or kill. In 14 days, those 12 Marines destroyed 3 major Vrexil command posts and eliminated hundreds of warriors. They held their position against impossible odds through sheer determination and skill. When Coalition relief forces finally reached the building, they found 12 humans sitting on the roof eating their last food rations. Around the building, in a circle stretching half a kilometer, lay dead Vrexil. Thousands of them. "You're late," Arium said with a tired smile. "We were starting to think you forgot about us." The Coalition commander, a tall crystalline being, couldn't speak for several seconds. "How are you still alive? The report said you were cut off with no support." Arium shrugged. "We're human. We don't quit." Similar stories were unfolding across all 3 planets. Human Marines fought in toxic environments that should have killed them in minutes. Human pilots performed maneuvers that violated every known law of safe flight. Human engineers repaired equipment under fire, while dealing with injuries that would have hospitalized any Coalition personnel. The Vrexil hive mind, a collective consciousness spanning billions of individual organisms, experienced something entirely new. The humans were impossible to predict or counter. They used primitive weapons that shouldn't be effective but were. They survived injuries that should be fatal. They fought with a combination of careful planning and wild aggression that the hive mind couldn't understand. For the first time in its entire existence, the Vrexil hive mind felt fear. On the 6th day of Operation Ironside, the Vrexil sent an electromagnetic pulse message. The translation was simple: "Stop fighting." Admiral Minho stood on the Sol's bridge reading the message. Next to him on a communication screen, Admiral Felstor looked shocked. "They're asking to negotiate," Felstor said in disbelief. "The Vrexil have never negotiated. They just consume." 6 months after the war ended, the Galactic Coalition Council gathered for the most important vote in their 5,000-year history. The crystal chamber was filled with representatives from all 17 member species. Observers crowded the balconies. Journalists recorded everything. Historians knew they were witnessing a moment that would be remembered forever. Ambassador Telris stood at the central podium. The war had aged him. His blue skin looked paler than before, and his forearms moved more slowly. But his eyes were bright with hope. "Honored members of the council," Telris began, "6 months ago our civilization faced extinction. The Vrexil swarm had destroyed our fleets, conquered our worlds, and broken our spirits. We sent a distress call expecting silence. Instead, we received an answer from the one place we never expected. Earth responded. The death world we had quarantined out of fear became our salvation. A holographic display showed footage of human ships arriving at Kepler Sanctuary. Even now, the images made council members uncomfortable. Those dark warships, those impossibly fast fighters, those soldiers who refused to die. Earth asked for nothing in return except the opportunity to help," Telris continued. "They fought beside us. They bled for us. They taught us what true courage means. Today we must decide whether to continue fearing them or to welcome them as equals. The proposal before us is to grant Earth full membership in the Galactic Coalition." A Drellian representative stood up. He looked like a being made of living crystal that chimed when he moved. "Ambassador Telris, we all acknowledge humanity's heroism, but granting full membership to a Class 12 Deathworld species is unprecedented. Can we truly trust them with equal status among peaceful civilizations?" Admiral Jinho rose from his seat in the observer section. He had been promoted from captain after the war ended, and now served as Earth's primary diplomat. Telris nodded permission for him to speak. "Representative, I understand your concerns completely," Jinho said calmly. "Earth is dangerous. Humans are dangerous. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us constantly. We became strong because weakness meant death. We became tough because our world gave us no choice. He walked to the center of the chamber. The alien council members leaned back instinctively. Even knowing humans were allies, their presence triggered ancient survival instincts. But strength is only one part of who we are. Jinho continued. We're also poets who write about love and loss. We're musicians who create symphonies. We're teachers who dedicate their lives to helping children learn. We're doctors who work exhausting hours to save lives. We're parents who sing lullabies and tell bedtime stories. We're gardeners who grow flowers simply because beauty matters. He activated a hologram showing Earth's cities, not military bases, but parks filled with playing children, museums filled with art, universities filled with students, hospitals filled with healing. This is also Earth, Jinho said gently. We're not just warriors. We're dreamers and builders and seekers of knowledge. We're everything you are. We simply happen to be very good at protecting what we love. Commander Taejin joined Jinho at the center of the chamber. The coalition was founded on the principle that different species can cooperate peacefully despite their differences. You have 17 member species, each bringing unique perspectives and abilities. Earth wants to become the 18th member. We'll contribute our strength, but also our art, science, philosophy, and ideas. We want to build, not conquer. A Quilvan council member spoke, her voice musical and thoughtful. But what happens when conflicts arise? Humans possess overwhelming physical power. What prevents you from simply taking whatever you want? Captain Yuna stood from her seat. The same things that prevent you: laws, ethics, morality, choice. Every species has different forms of power. You could refuse trade. You could share false information. You could form alliances against us. Power exists in many forms. What matters is choosing not to abuse it. She smiled warmly. We have a saying on Earth: with great power comes great responsibility. We believe that deeply. Our strength isn't for domination. It's for protection. We prove that at Kepler Sanctuary and Taraxian Prime. Give us the chance to prove it again every day as coalition members. The debate lasted hours. Some representatives argued passionately for humanity's inclusion, citing their heroism and sacrifice. Others remained cautious, worried about unknown consequences. Finally, Lieutenant Nari walked to the podium. She still limped slightly from injuries sustained at Taraxian Prime. The council recognized her from battle reports as the Marine who had fought for 6 hours with a crushed leg, refusing evacuation. I'm just a soldier, Nari said nervously. I'm not good at diplomatic speeches. But I want to tell you about something that happened after we liberated Taraxian Prime. We found children hiding in an underground bunker, Taraxian kids who had been there for months, terrified and starving. When they saw us, they screamed and ran away. We were these big armored humans carrying weapons. We must have looked like monsters to them. Her voice became soft. One of my Marines took off his helmet and sat down. He pulled out a chocolate bar and offered it to the kids. Then he started singing a silly song his daughter loved back home. Slowly, one by one, the children came closer. They took the chocolate. They listened to the song. Eventually, they let us carry them to safety. Nari looked around the chamber with tears in her eyes. That's what humans are. Yes, we're warriors, but we're also people who share chocolate with scared children and sing songs to make them feel safe. We're both things simultaneously. Please judge us by all of who we are, not just half. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Representatives debated among themselves, argued positions, negotiated compromises. Ambassador Telris allowed the conversation to continue, knowing this decision required genuine agreement. Young Hana sat in the observer gallery watching nervously. She was the monitoring station operator, whose detection of the original distress call had started everything. Beside her sat Sora, the young scientist who had made friends with Quilvan researchers. They held hands, waiting anxiously. After 7 hours of debate, the council finally called for a vote. The chamber fell completely silent as each representative cast their ballot. A simple yes or no on whether to grant Earth full coalition membership and remove the quarantine designation. The votes were tallied electronically. The result appeared on the main display, 14 in favor. 3 opposed. Earth was officially the 18th member of the Galactic Coalition. The chamber exploded with applause. Some representatives were crying tears of joy. Others were cheering loudly. Even those who had voted against the measure applauded respectfully, accepting the democratic outcome. Admiral Jinho bowed deeply to the council. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we accept this tremendous honor. We will work every single day to prove ourselves worthy of your trust. We will protect the coalition. We will contribute to its prosperity. We will honor its principles and values. Thank you for giving us this precious opportunity. The celebration lasted an entire week. On the coalition capital world, humans and aliens interacted freely for the first time in history. Engineer Junho conducted demonstrations of human technology, showing how kinetic weapons could complement energy-based systems. Medical Officer Yunji taught classes on human medicine, sharing techniques that could save coalition lives. Lieutenant Nari helped establish Earth's first embassy on the capital world. The building combined human and alien architecture beautifully, symbolizing cooperation between cultures. She worked alongside Quilvan construction specialists, learning their methods while teaching them Earth techniques. Pilot Daeon gave flight demonstrations that simultaneously terrified and amazed coalition observers. She tried teaching them human maneuvers, but most species couldn't handle the gravitational forces. Instead, she worked with coalition engineers designing hybrid fighters that combined human agility with alien shielding technology. Young Sora enrolled in the Coalition Science Academy as the first human student. She studied alongside researchers from dozen species, sharing Earth's knowledge while learning from them. Her enthusiasm and kindness made her popular. Students who had initially feared her now considered her a close friend. Hana joined the newly created Earth Diplomatic Corps. Her first mission was reaching out to other quarantined Deathworlds. The Coalition had 6 other Class 10 or higher Deathworlds marked on their maps, all avoided because of fear. Now, using Earth's example, they wanted to offer those worlds membership. Show them what we learned from Earth, Commander Teijin told Hana as she prepared for her first mission. Approach with respect, not fear. Demonstrate that Deathworld species can join the galactic community successfully. Earth showed the way. Now help others follow that path. 1 year after first contact, Ambassador Telris and Commander Taijin stood together in the observation deck of the new Joint Earth Coalition station orbiting Luna. Through the enormous windows, they watched ships from 18 different species working together harmoniously. Do you remember when you first arrived at Kepler Sanctuary? Telris asked quietly. I was absolutely terrified. I thought we had called for rescue but instead summoned our doom. Teijin smiled. And now? Now I cannot imagine the galaxy without Earth. Your people brought more than military strength.